Good morning, good morning, good morning. Okay, today we will be working in Access. Access is a database application which uses tables as its primary object. And tables are set up very similar to Excel spreadsheets. So if you can see the window on the right, that this is an Access database. We have tables, queries, forms, and reports in our left navigation pane. So if you hover here, and here's a drop down, we are displaying currently all of the object types. So we have by type. So we have object type, and we have also a display of all of the access objects in the database. If you want to display just tables or just queries, you can just select that object from the list if you want to isolate and focus, but there really won't be a need for you to do that for this particular course. If you are working in a database object, for instance, if I double click the guest table and open that up, and I want to work with the data in the guest table, the navigation pane is currently in the way, so I can click the shutter bar open close tool to minimize the navigation pane. So that's very helpful when you're actually working. If you're sorting or looking for a particular object, you can actually do a search based on keyword for specific items that you're looking for by name. So when, for instance, when I type in the word room into the search box, there's a filter that appears that shows only database objects with the word room in it. So that's what's going on on the left side of the window. So I will close that for now. So we have databases everywhere. Anytime you purchase an item online and you put in your name, address, credit card information, or payment information, you're using a database. So databases are actually everywhere. There are libraries, and I must confess, I'm old enough to when I started using libraries for research, excuse me, we were using the library catalog, the little 3.5 by 5 cards to sort through, and they had to manually go look and find. We don't have that anymore. In the information age, we have advanced to the point where we can search everything, electronically, which is an amazing use to save way to save time, and it's very convenient. And so we're in a, as we progress, hopefully things get better with time. So we're going to take a look at a database. We're going to look at the window, explore using a database. We're going to show you how to create a database. We're going to look at each one of the types of database objects, including the table. We're going to create a simple form, query, and a report. So in our Access Module 1 in course content, you'll see under week 3, there are 3 modules. This is Access Module 1. So here are the course notes. It gives you the definitions. So there are many different types of databases. So Access is really a smaller scale database. It's used by a couple of small companies, but not very large companies. The larger companies are going to have either proprietary databases that are built specifically for that organization, or they're going to use something like DBMS, which is free. We have MySQL, which is free. We have Oracle, which is not free. So it depends on the scale and scope of the company as to what type of database they use, but um, most companies beyond small startups will be using databases. Everywhere there is data input. So if you're like a data entry person, you're not going to see the whole database. All you are going to have in front of you is a form which allows you to type in and enter data. And the form is structured to eliminate as many data entry errors as possible. Besides spelling errors, they can't really check that. But as far as structure, how, for instance, zip codes are set up, how phone numbers are set up so that they're all consistently formatted, you can structure a table to have for all of the entries to have the same structure. So we'll take a look at that. All right, so when you're opening Access, now I already have a database that is open. So I'm gonna close this table. Okay, so if we go to File and click New, we have a blank database here, or we have some templates. Here's an inventory template, a customer service template, students, etc. So let's say, for instance, if I click customer service and then create, I think that is, okay, I'm still in the window. All right, so anytime you open a file, you know, when you download a file, any Microsoft product, you have to enable the content. So this is it's called a case list. And let's see. So there are different types of objects here. Let me sort this by object type to make it a little easier to understand. So let me explain a little bit about how databases are set up. So every table is a topic. And so you think about the structure of the organization. So what does it do? And there is a table that is a category for pretty much each one of the functions. All right, so let's take Montgomery College, for example, because we understand Montgomery is college. So there would be a table for a list of students. So all of the student information. So in this case, it would be customers. So we have an ID, so we know we have a student ID. In this particular case, there's company because the customer works for a particular company. So for students, you would have last name, first name, email address, whatever information, contact information for that person. And every category of information is in a separate field. Okay. So let me close this. I'm going to go back to the database that actually has data in it. So I'm going to go to File, Close, and to close that up, and I'll go back to File, and in my list of recent databases, I have the database that was open previously. Okay, so this is a Landon Hotel. I think we can all relate to hotels and what they do, right? They house people. So we have a table with guests. We have a table with employees, room assignments, room details, room rates, and then we have rooms. So the information is categorized. So we also have the first name separated from the last name. So all of the data is isolated to its smallest increment. All right, so let me pull that up a little bit. So we have an ID. Every table has to have an ID for every record. So what is a record? A row is a record. So here, this is row 1, or record 1, Catherine Reed, right? Catherine first name, Reed last name. We have email, country, street address. And I'll advance over. There's a horizontal scroll bar at the bottom. Country, city, state, zip, phone. You can add an image. You can upload a picture. You can add a new, click to add a new field name. You can do that here, which takes us to the field types. And I'll do that I'll switch over to design view. All right, so before we get there, this is the guest table and it's open. And if we want to close it, we click the X here, right? Or we can right click and close it. Tables have two views. Matter of fact, all Access objects have multiple views, okay? Our view tool is here on the home tab, the very first tool, because it is that important. When you're working in a database, there's a lot of switching back and forth or toggling back and forth from data sheet view to design view. So I'm going to close the navigation pane so we can focus on this particular table. I'm going to click view. It takes me to design view. It doesn't say design view, but if I click the drop down, I will see the two views that are available for tables. Design view and data sheet view. Data sheet view shows data. The design view shows the structure of how the table is set up. So in design view, we have the field name and we have the data type. So there is a list of the data types, and every field is required to have a data type. So the description here, it says it's optional. So you don't have to write out a description. But let's just think of, in the case of Montgomery College, our student ID would be the primary key field, which is indicated by this yellow color and the key. So this is primary key, and you can turn this on and off by toggling the primary key tool, but you can't do that. You can't change it once you have relationships created between multiple tables. So we deal with relationships in Module 2. But again, every table must have a primary key field, even if you don't have relationships between your tables. So we have a name that indicates this is an ID field. So it's called guest ID. It's from the guest table, and it's an ID field. The data type is auto number, which means every new guest added will just automatically be issued the next number in sequence. In the case of Montgomery College, right, we would have student ID, and over here we would type starts with a capital M and ends with 8 numbers. You know what I mean? So it's describing what the student ID looks like. The second field here is first name. Notice there are no spaces in the field name, and that's pretty typical for databases, because as you start, if you have some advanced coding going on with calculations, fields that may be calculated, etc., and you're going to end up using MySQL in the background. That's not something you would apply, but that's something Access would apply. But so a lot of the naming nomenclature for databases is that you will see the field names don't have spaces. To compensate for that and to not make your reports or your query results look like they have typos, we would come down and add a caption, first space name, so that when this is displayed in any other report, because the tables are going to be used for reports, queries, and forms, you don't want to see first name without a space. So we would do the same for last name. We would add a caption. So each field has a data type, but each field also has field properties at the bottom. So the last name, for instance, has field size 255. If you, the short text, the maximum number, if we look over to the right here, the maximum number of characters you can enter in a field, the largest maximum you can set is 255. That is for the short text data type. Now, if you need more text than 255 characters, you're going to select long text. So maybe you have a field name called details. Maybe you have a guest. Maybe you want to write notes about a guest, so you would make that long text, right? Because this person has 3 dogs and blah blah blah, whatever. So you can add that way. So again, we have country, street. So we have street address. Let me just add that caption, and that's it for the two name fields. So I'll click save and excuse me, switch over to design view. So now we have first space name, last space name. That is that caption feature at work. We have street address that has a space in it, and then we have our details column that was added. Okay, so on the left, we see an explanation of that. Fields, we have field properties, field names, and data types. So the data types, there's a list here for the type of data types in an explanation in a table style setup. So did someone check in? That will be yes, no. That's simply a checkbox. Of course, date and time, you need to set it as a date and time setting, so it will appear as a date and time and not a number, etc. The OLE is a picture or a graphic. You may want to upload the employee ID or something like that. Okay, when it comes to saving and access, okay, so it's different to save a object and versus saving the entire database. So if I have a table open and I go to File, Save As, I have two options here. Am I saving the database or am I saving the object? So I'll click Save Object As. Maybe I want to rename it, which I don't have to go through this process. But if I had created a new object, this is how this would work. Save Object As, and then you would click Save As, and this is going to create a copy. It's going to be a table, not a query form or report, and I'm going to click OK. So I have a duplicate. I have copy of guests. Okay, and this is open, so I'll close that. I don't need this. This is an extra table, so I'm going to right click and delete it. Okay. If I also wanted to rename it or just call it something different, I would select the rename option. But I'm going to right click and actually delete this. Okay, it'll be removed from all groups. It's not connected to anything, so no harm, no foul. If I want to rename the database, I would go File, Save As. So I don't have any objects open, so Save Object As is not an option. So Save Database As, Save As, and it will take me to wherever. I'll drop it on the desktop, and I'll just put my last name on it and click Save. So we have a new name for the database. So again, I need to enable the content because it's a new file as a new name. Okay, so the best database design is to not have multiple fields that are named the same. So we're not going to repeat a customer name and a address under room assignments. So what we have under room assignments is the guest ID. So that's how we tie the room assignment back to the guest, is using the ID field instead of having the name, address, phone number, city, state. Because what we're focused on in the room assignments table is the room assignment, right? Not the name, the address, the city, all that blah, 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 right? So this is the field, the guest ID, which ties into, connects back to the guest field. Okay, so what does that look like? Let me close this up and open up the relationships window. So under database tools, there's a relationships tool, and I'll close the navigation pane because we don't need it. So this is what's going on. These tables are related. So remember we had that, and they can be resized and dragged around by the title. Okay. So we were looking at room assignments, and the guest ID is here, right? And guess what? It ties right back to the guest ID in the guest table. So you can do a query. If you want the name of the people on the room assignments, that will be a query. Because you got two tables that you can extract from fields in both tables to create a more comprehensive report. But just for the sake of room assignments, in the room assignment table, you're just going to get the check-in date, the room ID, guest ID, day of the week, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of how the objects work together. And typically you don't have, like, this room rates table should be related. And I'm jumping to my module 2 right now, but since I'm here, somebody else just jumped on. Please type your name in the chat for today's attendance. So we have room rates, and we have, of course, that will be associated with a room assignment. So this is a rate code field and a rate code field. I think this is calculated in this particular, one of these is calculated. Let me see. So typically, and I'm going to have to add this to the rooms, the rate code. You cannot create a relationship with a calculated field. So whenever you're creating a relationship, you need to drag from the primary key field. So that's what this is, to the secondary key. It's the same field, but it's not, it could be primary because that would be a one-to-one relationship, but you're looking just for the same field name. So it's here. So you would drag from primary key to that same field name, and you get this edit relationships box. And if you get this enforce referential integrity, if you get an actual relationship type, one-to-many, typically you're going to be on the right track. However, when we select that and click create, we get this error message that says calculated columns cannot be used in system relationships. So we'll click OK. So I can add I'm going to add the rate code to the rooms number, and then we'll create a relationship that way. All right, so I'm going to close this. Save changes, yes. So room details, room name type, description, and I think that was rate code. Okay, so we're going to add the rate code field, and I need to make sure I get the correct data type in order for the relationship to work. Now I'm digging way in, but you'll have the video. So the rate code is a short text data type. So when I add the rate code field to room details, it lands on short text by default. That's fine. I'll just click save. I will close room details. I will close room rates. I'll open my database tools and relationships. I forgot which, okay, rate code. I forgot where I added it. Did I add it here? Mm, guest room assignments, room details. Okay. So I had to add it back because now it has the rate code. So I'm going to drag from here to here. Oops. From rate code to rate code, primary to secondary, enforce referential integrity, and create. So now I have to add this back. So room name, room ID, rate, check-in date, room ID, room name. I don't forgot what it was related to. But that's how, so I would add room ID here. Again, let me do that room details one. So as you see, relationships can, all right, let me add this room ID. Let me open that up. Switch to design view. I'm assuming it's short text. And we'll drag from here to there. Oh, indeterminate. No unique found. Okay. I forgot what was there before. I had a relationship and it left. So let me bring this back down here. Okay, so as you can see, when you're setting up a database, it takes time. You have to figure out the relationships. You have to make sure the relationships work. You have to make sure the field data types match what's going on in the field as far as calculations and how the field is set up. So all of that has to be set up in order for your queries to be good. And so actually, you know what? Let me open up the other because I did save it again. I'll click yes. So this was the original. So you can also add guests this way. We have the add tables in the relationship window. And typically this is just a copy. If you have a blank, a copy, you want to hide it. You don't need to have multiple tables. So that was room ID to room ID. So let me see rooms and room assignments. Oh, okay, that's a different table. I was missing a table. Oops. So this is room details one. So this is a copy of this. So I can remove this here, hide table. And that's what it's supposed to look like. That's another reason to make a copy of your database before you get started, because I forgot what was there before. So now we have all of the room tables related. So now when we do a query on the rooms, we won't be missing any information, which can be very important at a hotel, as you can imagine. Okay, so we'll click save and we will close that relationship window. So let's review some terminology before we get into creating a table. Two ways to create a table, one in design view, one in datasheet view. I prefer design view. It's a lot simpler in my opinion. Okay, so we have our access window. We have the file tab, which takes us to Backstage view. We can click new for a new database. We can click open To open an existing database, we can go to Info to review our database properties. We can copy the path. We can open the file location. We can compact and repair the database. That actually removes any blank spaces, because as you manipulate a database, database files get large very fast, which is why I believe you cannot email Access databases in Outlook. So even if we had an Access assignment and you were like, I can't upload it, blah, 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 and you try to email it to me, you will see that red, it'll be the X. You can't email a database in Outlook, but you can email it in the Blackboard course mail, just FYI. So on the home tab, we're showing all of we have the navigation pane, and if you have a table open, then you'll see it. The ribbon will activate. Right now, the ribbon is not activated because we don't have an object open. So let's take a look at, let's just step through here. We have guests. We have employees, two different categories of people. We have room assignments. Okay. We have room details. We have a plus sign here, which means this table is related to a secondary table. So this is probably rooms. We have room detail and rooms, but that's with the plus sign. It just shows you the data for the table it's related to. We have room rates. There's that rate code. And then we have rooms. So there's a lot of categorizing going on with our tables, and we can right click. I can close all of the tables. Notice the ribbon has activated. I'll close all. Okay, I'll step into queries later. That's a whole nother look. So I don't want to overwhelm you too much. It's really a whole different look. Next, we have the Create tab, and this is where you create your objects. So there's a tables group, a queries group, forms, and then we have reports. So if you want to create a table in Datasheet view, you will click here. If you want to create a table in Design view, you will click here, Table Design. This is my preference. It starts here with blank. So we saw examples of tables open in Design view, and this just takes you here. You would type the field name, of course, the first field, and I'm going, with the MC example. So it defaults to short text. That would be the description. So the student ID would become the primary key field. The main thing with the primary key field at the bottom is that there are no duplicates. So a primary key field is a unique identifier, like student ID, like social security number, right? So there are a couple of options here. There's a drop down. There may be an instance where a table would allow duplicates. But primarily there's not going to be a good reason for that. So then you could go on and type first name. I'm just arrowing down. So address, arrow down, street, address. So address 1, address 2. Sometimes there's a address and then there may be an apartment number or office number, unit number. So there's usually 2 lines for address, and then the street is separate city, separate state. So databases break down. Again, the data is incremental. So if you're doing a search, let's say for all people that live in Maryland, or everyone in a certain zip code, you can do that type of query if your address is broken down. Now, if your address is just all in one field, it's a lot more difficult to make that happen. It could be done, but it's just a lot more challenging. Okay, and then you put phone and all of the phone, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I will click save, and now I name the table, so I'll just call it students just because this is my example, and we'll click OK. So here's our field. I'm sorry, here's our new table. And I'm going to switch over to design view, and I have no student data. So this is where your data entry comes into play, and you start typing in data. So M dot 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 dot. Oops, turn my. You can edit. I guess I have a street, huh? So I'm going to delete the field. So I got address 1 because it includes a street. So that was my mistake. So city, state, and you could do a drop down. So you can create a lookup list for all the states. Like typically you'll see that when you order online, you can't make up a state. You have to select from the drop down list. The same for countries because they want the data to be as accurate as possible. So that's just the purpose for lookup lists, and we can create one. I'll click save and switch over. So let's say the state, I'll do a lookup wizard. I will type in the values that I want. Click next. Number of columns 1. So I don't know, I don't have a list of states, but I'll just put Maryland. I'll put DC, Maryland, Virginia. I'll put Delaware. Let's see, Maryland. Okay, so you can create your own lookup list. We'll click next, the state, and then we'll click finish. So I'll click save, switch back over. So then you have a lookup list. You can only choose like out of these 4 states, and so on. So that's how you set up a table in design view. In datasheet view, it's very different. So you would choose the ID type first. Actually, that's auto number by default, and then you have to add the data type first, and then type, I guess student ID is first, so then that would be first name. And then you would have, right, to me it's not, it's a little more awkward for me, so I'm just going to stop here and click save, and this is just table 1, and it populates in our tables list, and that's what we have. So I'm going to close that, and I'm going to delete it. All right, next under create, we have queries. So we're going to take a look at queries. So you can edit, delete records in a table. You can import spreadsheets into Access to create a table. All the instructions are here. Since you don't have that assignment, you won't be needing that. Modifying tables. What's the difference between Access and Excel? When should you decide to use which application? If you have a larger amount of data and you need to manipulate it, you probably need a database. All right. Creating queries. We are going to stick with simple queries for the sake of this course. Okay. So under create, well, let me show you a query first. So We have some check-in details. So this tells you the name of who's checking in, the date, the day of the week, the room type, etc. So we have a lot of different information coming from different tables. So I'm going to go to Home and switch to Design View. Look at that. So we had to pull from many tables to get the information that we have here. So we have the first name, and I would like to put the check-in date first. So I selected the column and just dragged it over. I'll put last name before first name. So when I get the white arrow is when I can actually drag. So I have the check-in date first, then the last name, then the first name, and so the check-in date is descending. So we have a sort row. So this is design view. We have the tables used at the top of the design grid. This can be moved up and down. We have the field name, the table the field came from. We have a sort row. So the ascending, descending, or not sorted. We're sorting the check-in date by descending, so the most current is at the top. The show box, these check marks, if you don't want a particular field to display, you would remove that show box, deselect it, and I will run the query. So now we don't have the first name showing. It's still in design view, it's just not showing. So I'll click back and I can choose to display that again, run it, and the first name will appear. So that's what show means, okay? Then we have criteria. So there's no criteria, and there's an or criteria row. So if you want a particular date, we can put that under, oh, there is no, let's see, is there a date, bed, rate? Oh, I guess that's the first field, check-in date. So if we wanted a check-in a specific date, if somebody said, I checked in on such and such a date, you could just drop that in the criteria and run it and see who checked in on that particular date. So all these are 2020. So if I used, for example, 1/17/2020 to see who checked in on that date. So Access automatically drops the pound symbol around the date, and I'll see all the check-ins for that particular date. So that's how criteria works. You're limiting your data to something specific to answer a question. So this will be who checked in on January 17th, 2020. So I would go File, Save As, Save Object As, Save As, and this is, actually, let me put that in the back. So they're all kind of false. Check-in details for that particular date, and I'll click OK. So now this falls in under check-in details in my list of queries. So it just kind of keeps the queries organized if you have, like similar topics or whatever. So that's what a query looks like. If we are creating a query, we go to create. You can create a query two ways using a query wizard. So that would be here. For this particular course, we are going to stick with the simple query and go OK. Which fields do you want in your query? You can choose from more than one table or query. As you saw, we had multiple tables we were using in the past example. So we can choose any of the tables. I'll choose guests. And you can select the fields. So guest ID, first name, last name, email, and phone. So I'll say room assignment, check-in date, room ID, and rate codes, so I can see the rate. And room rates, I'll add the rate. Okay, so I used the drop down from all the queries and tables. I can make a query from another query. I can, like I did here. Same information, I just added criteria to make it more specific. I'll click next. Details, you typically want to show every field of every record, unless you're doing like a summary report for a month or a quarter or even a year. We'll click next. So guests query, I'll put with details, just something. So then you want to finish. Do you want to open to view the information, which means you would open in datasheet view, or do you want to open in design view to modify the query design? So if you were choosing for a specific date or a specific customer, you could add the criteria before you finish here. I'll just open to view the information. I'll click finish. And I don't have any data. Guest query with details. I don't have any. Dang, what did I? Let me go back here and go to view. Oh, I don't know. None of these relationships are any good. So I'm not sure what happened. Guest table, room assignments, room rates. I'm not sure what happened here. Let me select these and delete them. I'm going to cut, and I'm going to cut and run this again. I'm not sure what happened. It doesn't like my query. I don't have any data. All right, save changes. All right, I'm going to create this by in design view. And I'm going to, from tables, I'm going to add guests. I can also add tables from here. So guests and room assignments. Let's try this again. Guest ID, first name, last name, check-in date, room ID. So this is what I get. Query one. So I have replicating data. This person 1019. Let me go back here, room assignments. Let me open up relationships. So guests and room assignments are directly related. Okay, that's just a lot of data. All right, so let me rename this. Save as room assignments. We'll click OK. And we'll switch to datasheet view. So we have each guest appearing multiple times because we have a lot of different check-in dates. So that's what's going on here. So I'll put the check-in date first. So let me move this over, click save. So that explains it. So that's the priority field is the check-in date because it gives you a perspective of the data in the query. All right, so I'll close that and close the relationships because that kind of helps me get the perspective of what tables are related to what tables. Next we have forms. So under create, forms are very easy. Forms and reports can be very easy, can be very complicated. So we have one form here. I'll open it up. I'll double click employee profiles. Okay, we have, I'll close this. Dahlia London, this is profile, Mark Tristaner. Okay, they're not in alphabetical order. All right, so let's take a look. So we're going to go to the Home tab and click View. The drop-down, excuse me, arrow shows there are 4 different views for forms. Like, give me a break, right? So we have Form View, which we're in now. It just shows the form in its finished form. Then we have Data Sheet View. So this is the form. And this is a perfect example here. Like I'm trying to, what if I were trying to, so we don't have the first name and the last name separated. So we can't list the employees by last name in alphabetical or ascending order. This is the perfect example of that, right? I'm trying to organize the form, like, can we get to this person and then we know who's going to be next based on their last name? Not the way this table was set up, or this form was set up, because we need to have the name separated, the first name separated from the last name. The degree probably should be a whole nother field. You got MBA, MS, MMH. That should be a separate field as well. So that's the reason for incrementing your data when you create the table. All right, so that's the data sheet view. This is the layout view. So the layout view allows you to resize. You'll always see the orange frame. It's just helps you with the layout. That's why it's called layout view. So anything you select, you can actually change the text. Like I can. So this is layout, not you change the text in the form view. So let me go back to home and view, and then we have design view. So design view deals with the structure, the primary structure. So we have the photo with the name, title, phone, etc. This is the basic layout, and the bio, the layout for each record. So we'll go back to form view. All right. So do you want to say, no, I don't want to say change. Okay. All right. I'm going to select landed employees. Go to create. I'm going to create an employee form. Really quickly, selecting landed employees and click form. There's another version of the form as well. And we're going to click save, landed employees, and I'll click OK. We have 12 records. We can advance through. It's just a different format. We've basically already, we've got employee profiles. It's highlighted a little better. Let's do room details, create form. And we probably need to bring this down a little bit to make sure all the text is showing. We'll click save. Room details form. We'll click OK. We go to form view. There are 6 room types. And so now we're building our list of forms. We'll close these. And then we'll go to reports. So that's a pretty way to create forms. Real quick, each object has a wizard. So this is the second easiest way to create a form. We'll use the wizard. It will just step you through a wizard very similar to the query wizard. So you can create a form from any existing table or query. I will do a form for the check-in details of January 20th query. I will use all fields, click next, and it will set the form up the way it sees fit. You can choose different columnar, tabular, data sheet justified. I'll go with the default setting, click next, and I'll just use the same name as the table. Open the form to view or enter information. I will click finish. So there are 5 records for that particular day. And that's it. The asterisk takes you to the last record, so you can enter a new record, or you can go to the first record with the arrow with the bar in front of it. I will click save, and there's our new form. It's not real pretty. You can go to design and format it like they set up the query for the employee profiles. You know, they spent some time setting this up. That editing a form and a query is different from creating. So we're not going to dig into editing. All right, so we have a room assignments report. So that was how to create forms. We created a query, form, and last but not least is reports. We'll open up a report, room assignments. Again, the design, we've got the logo for the hotel, a nice size title. We have January 2018, February, so it's grouped by month. Okay, so it's set up pretty nicely. Check-in date is in ascending order, room name, room type, etc. Okay, so this is a room assignments report. I'll go to the home tab, click view. Reports also have 4 different views. This is the report view, the print preview. Typically, reports are made to be dispersed for meetings or to send to distributed to supervisors, upline, management, etc. So you can create a PDF version of the report and save it. So you can go to print, Microsoft print to PDF, and then you can save it to your computer and then forward it as an attachment to an email. To get out of the print preview view, we need to close print preview with this X here. So that takes us back to layout view, and that's the field list. Okay, so layout view again, it always shows, you know, that you can resize fields as you see fit. Room number, balcony, blah, blah, blah. And then we have design view, which takes you here. So this is the structure of the report and how it was set up. So we have today's date in the page footer. We have a report footer. A report footer appears at the end of the report. So we didn't have one. There's a page footer that appears on each page with the date and the page number of pages. And then we have the details section of the report and the check-in date header and another header and a report header. The report header will appear at the top of every page, and a page header. The report header will appear at the beginning, and there's a page header. So as you can see, there's a lot of detail. I'll go back to home view, back to report view. And there's a lot going on as far as editing each one of these objects. So a lot is crammed into Access, and we will close this up. Do you want to save changes? No. But real quick, we'll go to create, and just really quickly, so we have room assignments. I will select the guest table and just click report. And we just have a report. So you can resize as necessary. The goal is, this is a page break. The goal is for the the data to fit on one page. You may have to change it to, so we have report layout, we have arrange format. This may have to page setup become landscape due to the number of fields. We can also change the number of fields. So again, upon creating, right, so we're almost there. And I added that details so we can get everything on one page. Drag that in there. All right, so this way everything will display and the guest ID doesn't have to be that wide. But as you can see, you can spend some time editing your report. So we'll go to home and view, report view. And so everything is on one page, we're good. So I would save that and open the navigation pane and we have our guest report here. So that is Access objects in a nutshell. So on this window here, Control Home will take me to the top of the page when my mouse pointer is there. All right, so we'll go to week 3. Again, so that's Access Module 1. Let me go back out to Module 2, Queries, Forms, and Reports. So this talks about the relationships, creating relationships. Demonstrated that for you. There's sorting and filtering that can be involved with a table. How to create queries using the wizard, using the query design tool, query criteria. So these again are terms that you will see in the quizzes. So I think as long as you can relate a term to what it is associated with, I think you'll be fine. So again, Control Home takes us to the top. And for your benefit, I always recommend watching the scripted lectures. Okay, designing a simple query. Again, just click on the link that takes you to the actual video. Under the video is a transcript of what the video covers. Okay, creating a multi-table query, sorting and filtering records, working with forms, creating forms, formatting forms, creating reports, advanced report options. And here's a demonstration of me stepping through this scripted lecture here in case you need another video. Okay, so I am finished for today. I will stop the recording.